Well, and as you move along in this process, one of the earlier things that you'll have to make decisions about, and that will be by the that next board election, but it's to start to really be thinking about, so what are the term limits of people on the board? Well, while you're doing that, you might as well at least study or take a look at that at the same time. That would tend to make sense for you to do.
Yeah.
So, okay, we'll get a hold of the AEA and make sure that that information is available so that when you next meet, you can have that. Okay. Alternative method for selection of directors really has been completed because you sit here as the board of directors. There is a separate piece of that, which is the re-election as we come up in the next and determining terms, which we'll talk about in a little bit. Organization of the new board, you just approved the minutes for that organizational meeting, so you've completed that. Appointing acting officers, you've done that. That was evidenced in those minutes. Duties of the new board. Really there are, it's not a very long list of duties, and so we'll just walk through what those are. The new board may establish policy, but it would only be policy that would take effect starting July 1 of 2011. Dr. Feeney and I actually talked about policy because we have a few policies that the board approved going on 5 years ago, because that was when we started where we redid all of the policies, reviewed all of them. So you're going to need, the regular boards are going to need to do review of some policy just during this school year. So when you meet in joint session, there are a few sections of policy you're going to need to get started on because those will meet that 5-year guideline. But there may be new policy. Organized curriculum, enter into contracts, complete planning, and take necessary action as essential for efficient management of the new district. So really everything you're thinking about are decisions that you're making that are related to July 1st, 2011. The board will have jurisdiction over personnel beginning July 1st, 2011. We will enter negotiations soon, really, so that you can have that negotiation process completed. You will actually be the board that issues the contracts, but you don't actually take, as I say, control. You don't really have jurisdiction over those personnel, though, until July 1st of 2011. So anyone resigning their positions next year, it will be the individual boards that would accept those. But everything with the beginning of offering contracts, setting the new budget, everything that needs to happen for East Sac County Community School District. So if you always think of things in those terms, it'll keep it pretty straight in your head about what the current Sac and Lakeview Auburn boards do and what the East Sac board does. Continuation of levies, of the levies that are listed in the packet on page 46. There would be two that the districts have. Instructional support levy that Lakeview Auburn has. John, that expires
budget year 2010 or 11. The next school year will continue to receive it the upcoming year. So it expires when the WLVA district
no longer exists.
Right.
Okay.
And is that the same? I think Frank looked it up. I think it's the same thing with the voter approved couple.
It is.
Because I did not vote on that, and this is going on my 10th year, so it's got to be about up.
We have, if we're interested in those levies, we have till about January to get going, December or January. And
So those are discussions we need to have.
yeah, that would be if we would decide to do them by board action. We'd have to do something in January. I think we'd have to act sooner if we were thinking of an election for those.
So we better find out what
I would say sometime in July or August we need to.
better find out
Our
what
next
the
agenda
guidelines are. And
They can both be done by board action?
For 5 years.
Again, for 5 years, yeah.
And that requires 2 meetings and 28-day notice type of stuff, so. Just received all that from, like June 10th, we got that from the DE on that stuff,
So John, what I'm writing down, and I'm putting your name by it, okay, is voter action versus board action at the, assuming that you'll have a meeting in July, at the next meeting then, at the July meeting. Okay, so we've got 2 items for the next agenda. The voter-approved PEPAL at SAC, we actually didn't implement this year because we used 33 cents as usual, but the dollar we moved to the modified allowable growth for at risk. So it's been approved by the district, but rather than adding voter approved, or rather than adding additional tax, that dollar was just moved to a different source. Replacement of initial board by the regular method, that doesn't apply. Replacement of the initial board by the alternative method, and because you've been selected by that alternative method, which is the method that the board will be replaced by. And I did ask about this as well. The board will be replaced in the next 3 elections. So the next election is 2011, and then 13, and then 15. And I did email and ask at the DE, because that moves that, some board members could be on the board a long time. If you've already been on your regular board, and now let's say that you're the last to be replaced in 2015. She said, nope, that's the new language, and it takes into consideration the every other year election rather than the every year. So the language says to try to equitably distribute that over those years. So it's sort of a 1-2-2 or a 2-1-1, 2-1-2 or a 2-2-1. I mean, you're just going to have to decide what that's going to look like. But before that first election, the board has to approve a plan. It does say right in the handbook that this method, it's suggested that an attorney assist in developing the plan. Those are my exact thoughts. Continuing contracts, really this is pretty easy as well. The contracts of licensed employees, superintendent, principals, teachers shall not be affected by the formation of the new district. This does not mean, though, that the current boards could not reduce staff and make that recommendation. So let's say that Sac-and-Wall, Lakeview, Auburn individual boards decided that they were going to participate in some staff reduction this year to reduce expenses, or you thought that you had too many teachers in elementary buildings, or who knew what those reasons might be. Those 2 districts could move ahead with 279, which is staff reduction, and could do that. It's just that this board doesn't have the authority, because remember, you don't take jurisdiction until the 1st of July of 2011. Now, in the 11-12 school year, you would have the authority to reduce staff. Okay? So, contracts with licensed employees shall not be affected by the formation of the new district. Authority for the contracts transfers on the 3rd Tuesday of January preceding the year of reorganization of the old boards to the initial board. And we well, I shouldn't say that. There would be nothing in the works right now with some plan for the future that we were already planning on reducing staff in another year. Okay, that wouldn't have been any plan that we had that in 2010-11, okay, now we're going to reduce. So it's not already built into some sort of plan.
That seems confusing, that they transfer, authority for the contract transfers on the 3rd Tuesday in January, yet the old boards could do 279 in February or March?
No, you know, you're right. Except in accordance with provisions of 279.